Night falls differently on the plains when no engines roar, no flashlights cut the dark, and no steel boots stamp warnings into the ground. Modern soldiers talk about night operations as a technical challenge solved with goggles and gear. But the ancestors moved through darkness with nothing except their bodies, their senses, and a kind of quiet mastery that feels almost impossible today. Here's the catch. Many recorded encounters describe native scouts slipping past armed patrols who were fully awake, fully alert, and still blind to the presence moving inches from them. That paradox pushes us into the heart of this mystery. Cold air thickens at night and sound travels farther, sharper, and stranger. Settlers wrote about these conditions like natural enemies, yet the tribes treated them like allies. Weird part. Winter nights were the easiest for silent walking, because snow layers carried stories: which direction the wind shifted, which animals crossed recently, which pockets of ground were thawing beneath hidden springs. This wasn't superstition. It was physics, memory, and attention sharpened through generations that lived without the luxury of guessing. The modern world made darkness feel dangerous, but the ancestors studied it like a language. They knew how eyes change after only a few moments without firelight. They knew how rods in the retina awaken when the cones finally rest. They knew that shadows reveal movement faster than bright light ever does. Native scouts didn't wait for their vision to adjust. Their bodies prepared long before night arrived. They ate foods rich in natural vitamin A from wild plants and hunted animals, strengthening night vision at the cellular level. Soldiers today learn this fact in survival schools. The ancestors lived it daily. But here's the twist. Silent walking was never just about being quiet. It was about being unreadable. Snow hides sound, but it also betrays direction. Dry grass crackles. Frozen soil snaps. Every mistake carries a signature. Modern soldiers train to distribute weight evenly across their boots, yet the ancestors used bare feet or soft moccasins that folded to the ground like second skin. They pressed the earth before stepping, testing how much noise it would give. They rolled each step from the outside edge inward, letting the body feel vibrations before the ear heard anything. The weird part is how natural it became, like breathing, learned early and refined over decades. The real pain enters when we consider the stakes. This wasn't training for exercise or competition. It was survival in landscapes that punished ignorance. Winter nights killed without hesitation. Predators roamed. Enemy scouts watched. Every sound, every misstep, every careless breath could mark a family for danger. Darkness wasn't feared, yet it wasn't romanticized. It was respected, like a powerful, moving force that demanded full awareness. Silent walking formed the foundation of winter travel. Hunting, nighttime defense, and long-distance movement across territories scarred by storms and shifting winds. Modern soldiers admit a strange truth during field training. Technology helps, but technology also makes them louder, heavier, and more predictable. Goggles glow. Metal rattles. Synthetic fabric snaps in freezing wind. But the ancestors moved as if the night invited them forward. They didn't fight the dark. They let it cover them like a moving shield. And this leads to a deeper question that opens our journey. How did entire communities learn to see, sense, and navigate a world where vision came not from brightness but from connection, patience, and the subtle signals the earth gives when you know how to listen? The deeper you go into this world, the stranger one truth becomes. Silent walking wasn't a trick for nighttime travel. It was the doorway to a completely different way of sensing the environment, a way modern science is only beginning to understand. The ancestors didn't rely on eyesight alone. They built a layered system of awareness that turned darkness from a limitation into an amplifier. Here's the catch. The darker the world became, the more information they could gather. Most people assume night vision is just about the eyes adapting. But the ancestors treated vision as a team effort between eyes, skin, feet, breath, and memory. Weird part, your feet can see in the dark. Nerves in the soles detect pressure shifts, ground temperature changes, and subtle vibrations. Native scouts trained this sensitivity from childhood, walking barefoot on cold soil, warm sand, thin ice, and packed snow until their nervous system captured textures like words in a vocabulary. Modern labs call this somatosensory mapping. The ancestors simply called it paying attention. Night didn't remove information. It reorganized it. Contrast increases. Sound sharpens. Smell travels. Air density changes. The silhouette of a tree becomes more recognizable than its daytime details. Modern soldiers use infrared to detect motion, but the ancestors relied on something even more dependable: movement relative to stillness. A single blade of grass bending against the wind's direction told them more than any night vision device. Smart move when the world grows quiet. The smallest motion becomes a shout. They also understood how moonlight behaves like water. It flows over ridges, pools in open meadows, breaks on rock faces, and stretches long shadows across frozen ground. Records suggest native scouts navigated by these shadows more than the moon itself. Shadows revealed slopes, dips, and unseen obstacles. Moonlight only made the outline. The shadow told the story. Modern navigation charts mention this, but the ancestors learned it through lived experience, night after night. Yet the real insight lies in how they prepared their bodies long before stepping into darkness. Their diet wasn't random. Winter foods like dried berries, smoked fish, liver, and fat-rich pemmican carried high amounts of vitamin A, lutein, and retinol, nutrients that strengthen rod cells responsible for low-light vision. These foods weren't eaten with scientific vocabulary, but they built a system where night didn't drain energy, it refined it. Modern nutritionists confirm that high vitamin diets dramatically improve night sensitivity. The ancestors discovered the formula without ever needing the term micronutrient. Breathing played a role most people overlook. Slow nasal breathing prevents moisture loss and keeps air warm before entering the lungs. Less moisture means clearer scents. Animals follow this principle. Humans forget it. Native scouts preserved it. They inhaled through the nose, held still, and listened for how sound bounced across the landscape. That's the twist. Sound has a shape. The ancestors mapped that shape long before modern acoustics existed. Another insight emerges when we consider their relationship with fire. Most people stare at flames, destroying night vision for nearly half an hour. But the ancestors learned to turn their eyes away from firelight long before traveling, shielding their peripheral vision, letting rods activate fully. Fire warmed the teepee, but it never blinded the night traveler. Soldiers today learn this trick during specialized training. The ancestors normalized it as daily wisdom. These insights create a surprising reality. Silent walking wasn't quiet because people tried to be silent. It was quiet because silence came from alignment, body, breath, memory, and terrain working as one. Night didn't hide the landscape. It revealed a different version of it, one that only appears to those patient enough to slow down and feel their place within it. Silent walking may sound like a skill, but it functioned more like a toolbox, a set of precise techniques shaped by generations who treated the night as a teacher. Each tool sharpened a different sense, a different part of the body, a different layer of awareness that modern soldiers rarely train deeply. Here's the catch. None of these tools looked like tools. They were simple movements, choices, foods, and rhythms that redesigned the entire relationship between humans and darkness. The first tool was the foot itself, not the shape, but the loading sequence. Scouts stepped with the outer edge first, letting the foot roll inward, testing ground texture before committing full weight. It acted like a preview button. If the earth crackled or felt unstable, they shifted instantly, avoiding noise before it happened. Modern instructors call this edge loading. The ancestors used it thousands of times per night, turning each step into a controlled whisper. Weird part: this technique does more than remove sound. It activates nerves that read vibrations, giving early warnings long before the ear hears anything. The second tool was the breath. Slow, nasal breathing became a stabilizer, warming cold air, sharpening scent, and calming the body enough to maintain steady vision. Quick mouth breaths fog vision, alert animals, and scatter attention. Slow breaths gather it. A scout could tell wind direction by how cold air settled inside the nostrils, a subtle cue modern sensors often miss. Smart move. When the world grows unpredictable, the simplest rhythms become the most reliable. Then came the tool of posture. A lowered center of gravity reduced impact noise and improved balance over uneven winter terrain. Knees flexed slightly, spine aligned, shoulders relaxed to prevent tension from amplifying sound through clothing. Modern soldiers call this silent posture. The ancestors used it because they noticed something odd. The body becomes louder when fearful. Muscles stiffen, joints lock, clothing rubs. By softening posture, they softened sound. Night rewarded that softness. Another tool was the deliberate avoidance of firelight before traveling. Fire destroys night vision for nearly half an hour. The ancestors shielded their eyes, sat with their backs to flames, or simply stepped outside earlier than others to let rods activate fully. This wasn't superstition. It was neurobiology. Rod cells recover only in darkness. Scouts protected that recovery as seriously as modern operators protect their gear. Here's the twist. While others relaxed near the fire, the night traveler was already preparing for the world outside it. Food acted as another tool. Winter diets, rich in fish oils, dried berries, and organ meats provided nutrients that strengthened night vision and stabilized energy during long nighttime movement. Pemmican offered slow-burning fat that kept the mind sharp without exhausting the body. Foods rich in vitamin A strengthened rod cells, while smoked meats provided minerals that improved oxygen transport. Small advantages that became decisive on silent walks lasting hours. Clothing also played a role, though not the way modern gear does. Soft moccasins hugged the ground and translated texture like signals. Loose garments prevented sound from snapping in cold wind. Fur-lined layers trapped body heat without stiffening movement. The ancestors didn't just dress for warmth. They dressed for quiet. Every layer served the mission of blending into the night rather than fighting it. Another overlooked tool was environmental reading. Scouts learned how snow behaves under different temperatures. Powder snow compresses softly, ice crust fractures loudly. Wet snow absorbs sound. Dry snow scatters it. This knowledge shaped every route, every step, every shift in movement. Modern soldiers use thermal imaging to see ground differences. The ancestors used memory and touch. Tools even extended to timing. They moved when wind gusts rose, when animals stirred, when trees creaked, when river ice cracked. Noise became camouflage. Silence became signal. Timing wasn't luck. It was strategy. All these tools created a kind of invisible gear. Nothing external, everything internal. No glowing screens, no heavy packs, no battery-powered devices. Just a body tuned to the night, a mind focused on small cues, and a deep respect for landscapes that reward patience more than brute force. Each tool seemed simple alone. Together, they formed a system that allowed humans to navigate darkness with precision modern soldiers still struggle to match. Tools only matter when they shape behavior. And for the ancestors, silent walking became a daily rhythm rather than a rare skill. It guided how they approached the land, how they traveled at night, and how they carried responsibility for the safety of their families. Here's the catch. These quiet behaviors weren't performed with tension or fear. They were performed with calm intention, learned so early and so consistently that they felt as natural as breathing. The first application began long before the sun disappeared. Scouts monitored wind patterns throughout the day, noting irregular gusts, quiet valleys, and ridgelines where air curled unpredictably. When night arrived, they already knew which areas would cover footsteps and which would betray them. Modern soldiers often rely on weather apps, but the ancestors relied on observation. Tiny signs like snow drifting sideways, tree needles flickering, or smoke rising unevenly. Weird part, these subtle behaviors created the map long before the journey began. Movement patterns followed a disciplined rhythm. Every scout matched steps with breath, letting long exhalations coincide with the placement of the foot's outer edge. This synchronized the body so perfectly that noise became predictable and controllable. They avoided stepping directly behind another person, because snow compresses differently with repeated pressure. Instead, they fanned out, spreading sound across a wider area. Soldiers today might call this acoustic dispersion. The ancestors simply understood that the land listens too. Another applied behavior involved pausing more than walking. Silent walking wasn't about constant motion. It was about strategic stillness. Scouts stopped frequently to let their senses recalibrate. They listened for contrast, something moving against a quiet background, something still against a noisy one. Smart move. Stopping makes the world move for you. When the land reveals itself, footsteps become unnecessary. Hand placement also mattered. Arms stayed close to the body to reduce clothing friction and avoid accidental brushing against vegetation. Fingers remained slightly open, ready to sense airflow, branch tension, or ground moisture. Even the direction of their gaze changed behavior. Instead of staring forward, scouts softened their focus, letting peripheral vision capture movement faster than direct sight. This small shift turned every step into a wider field of awareness. Travel routes avoided straight lines. They curved around trees, circled noisy brush, and followed natural depressions that muffled sound. They moved beside streams to mask footsteps or used frozen riverbeds when the ice was thick enough to hold weight without cracking. When the ice thinned, they shifted to snowbanks where sound softened. This constant adaptation created a fluid dance with terrain that modern training rarely emphasizes. Special behaviors emerged when traveling with groups. Children learned to mimic the gait of adults, matching pace and posture, making the group sound like a single organism instead of scattered individuals. Adults positioned themselves to shield noise from vulnerable members, forming living barriers that guided sound away from predators or rival scouts. The weird part is how invisible these formations appeared, even when moonlight revealed silhouettes. The group moved like a shadow without edges. They also practiced careful scent control. Smoke clings to clothing, so scouts avoided sitting near fires before traveling. Strong herbs were rubbed lightly on skin, masking human scent beneath natural aromas. Snow acted as a natural cleanser, cooling the body and reducing sweat odors. Modern soldiers rely on scent-blocking sprays. The ancestors used the land itself. Nighttime decision-making required constant mental updates. Every few minutes, scouts recalculated routes based on new information: broken twigs, distant movement, unusual quiet, shifting shadows. Planning wasn't linear. It was dynamic, responsive, alive. The night rewarded those who changed quickly and punished those who clung to rigid paths. Even communication changed. Instead of talking, scouts used subtle taps, gentle breaths, or brief touches on the arm. A single tap could mean danger. A soft exhale could signal movement. These cues were nearly silent but deeply meaningful, turning the group into a coordinated system without language. Modern operators use hand signals for similar reasons, yet the ancestors perfected these micro cues generations earlier. All these behaviors fused into a remarkable truth. Silent walking wasn't a performance for special missions. It was a lived practice shaped by necessity, taught through experience, and perfected every night the land demanded humility. Silent walking and night awareness created advantages that reached far beyond stealth. These behaviors shaped survival, protection, food security, and emotional confidence during harsh seasons when darkness lasted longer than daylight. Here's the catch: the benefits didn't just help scouts. They helped entire communities move, hunt, travel, and rest with certainty in landscapes that modern gear still struggles to tame. The first benefit was energy efficiency. Moving quietly meant moving slowly, and slow movement conserved body heat during winter nights. Modern soldiers burn massive calories when crossing frozen terrain because heavy gear and fast pacing drain warmth. The ancestors used the opposite principle. They let the land set the tempo, allowing breath, muscles, and heartbeat to stay aligned. Smart move: the quieter you walk, the warmer you remain. Silent walking also improved safety. Scouts could detect threats before threats detected them, giving families time to react, relocate, or regroup. This early warning advantage shaped hunting routes and defensive strategies, reducing unnecessary conflict and protecting vulnerable members. Weird part: moving slowly actually made them faster where it counted, because they reached decisions before danger fully formed. Another powerful benefit came from their enhanced perception. The night didn't overwhelm their senses. It sharpened them. They recognized animal trails, shifting weather, hidden water, or unstable ice long before the untrained eye noticed anything. Modern technology can simulate some of this awareness, but it cannot replace the instinct built by thousands of quiet nights. The ancestors didn't just see the land, they experienced it as a living partner. Travel became safer and more predictable. Scouts who mastered silent walking understood how ground temperature changes hint at thin ice or concealed springs. They read snow layers like a map. They sensed wind shifts through their clothing. These subtle cues prevented injuries, saved time, and allowed entire groups to travel confidently even during storms. Modern survival instructors still teach these techniques, but rarely with the same depth. Silent walking strengthened community bonds. Moving through darkness required trust, coordination, and shared awareness. Families learned to match footsteps, communicate with soft cues, and protect one another without speaking. This quiet teamwork built emotional resilience that no modern device can replicate. When silence becomes communication, people grow closer. One overlooked benefit was psychological calm. The ancestors didn't feel trapped by darkness. They felt prepared for it. Walking silently lowered adrenaline, reduced panic, and created a stable rhythm the body could maintain for hours. Night became less of an enemy and more of a doorway to knowledge. And here's the twist that surprises many people today. These benefits stayed with them during daylight. Silent walking improved balance, posture, breath control, environmental awareness, and mental discipline. It shaped hunters, parents, leaders, and travelers. Night training turned daytime life into something steadier, safer, and more intentional. Silent walking wasn't just a technique for survival. It was a way of tuning the human body to match the land, transforming darkness from a problem into a powerful ally. The deeper we travel into this world, the clearer one truth becomes. Silent walking was never just a method of moving through darkness. It was a philosophy of living with the land, a reminder that survival depends less on domination and more on understanding. Here's the catch: the ancestors weren't trying to conquer the night. They were trying to honor their place within it. Modern technology gives us infrared lenses, amplified microphones, and tactical boots. Yet many soldiers still struggle in environments the ancestors navigated with quiet confidence. That contrast isn't a criticism, it's an invitation. It invites us to rethink what advanced really means. Sometimes progress is not adding more equipment. Sometimes progress is learning to feel again. Silent walking teaches humility. It tells us that every landscape holds knowledge if we learn to listen. The ancestors practiced this listening with their feet, their breath, their senses, and their respect for natural cycles. They didn't force the night to reveal its secrets. They waited until the night offered them. Weird part, it was this patience, not strength, that created mastery. We live in a world where noise fills every moment. Engines hum, screens glow, alerts interrupt. Silence becomes rare, and that rarity makes it uncomfortable. But the ancestors treated silence as a teacher, not a threat. Silence sharpened their awareness, steadied their hearts, and aligned their bodies with the environment. Smart move. When the world becomes loud, the ones who hear the quiet survive best. There is a cultural message hidden in all these skills. Silent walking wasn't only for scouts. It shaped the values of entire communities. It taught children to move gently, to observe deeply, to respect animals and seasons, and to honor the land that sustained them. This knowledge wasn't written in books. It lived in footsteps, stories, and shared experiences passed down across generations. When we talk about indigenous knowledge today, we often focus on tools, foods, shelters, or rituals. But silent walking reveals something deeper. It shows us a mindset where humans are not separate from nature. They are participants in it. They learn from wind. They adapt to snow. They let darkness teach them patience. This worldview creates sustainability not because people try to be sustainable, but because they already live within natural rhythms. And here's the twist that ties everything together. Silent walking still works. Any person, anywhere, can practice it. No special equipment required. Just attention, humility, and time. The ancestors left us a blueprint for moving through the world with awareness instead of fear. So when we look at the night again, when we stand in the quiet, breathe slowly, and let our senses stretch, we aren't copying ancient skills. We're reconnecting with something human, something powerful, something that never truly disappeared. The night hasn't changed. Only we have. And the ancestors remind us, with every soft step, that the path back to understanding begins in silence.